Hey everyone, so here is my nameplate. I just want to give you a quick rundown of how I made it. So I won't walk you through quite as step by step as the extrusion practice piece, but I want to show you roughly what's going on here and some things you need to keep an eye out for when designing for 3D printing. This bar here, this rollback bar, is kind of like your time machine. You can pull it back and forth to kind of go back to what you had done at the beginning. So I'm going to do that to kind of walk you through how I made this part. So first we started off with this sketch, which one of the criteria meant that the side profile had to be fit within a 4 centimeter by 4 centimeter block. So I did this, and you should do something similar. You don't have to make it as boxy as mine is, but you definitely want to have like a flat angle that, flat side here that's kind of angled back for where your name's going to be engraved on. So that way when you put it down on the table, when people sit, like it's kind of facing up at them, so they don't have to kind of like get down and squint and see what you're doing. So you kind of want it to be angled back a bit. That's how you see most nameplates. Doesn't have to be much. It could be slight. I mean, even if it's just a little bit like this, that's fine too. But I'm going to Control Z that so it doesn't mess everything up. So I took that and then I extruded mid-plane. And you can tell that I extruded mid-plane because when I select the sketch, you can see that it is in the middle of the piece. So I went and extruded it 20 centimeters that way. And then I didn't like the boxiness of it, so I went and I did some fillets. And you should do some fillets or chamfering as well. I filleted these three with the same radius around that, and then I wanted kind of a big one on the back, so I did it that way. Don't put a huge one on the bottom here. I originally had that, kind of making something that was like this, and that's not really, I mean, it's not horrible. I mean, the way mine is set up right now, there's a lot of weight back here, so that might roll over, not as much as I want to, but you could certainly experiment to play with that rolling bottom there. So if you wanted to kind of get it sit there so it could kind of rock back and forth, you could totally do that. Just be careful with what you do. I might give you some feedback on that. I might even try printing it out first and then be like, nope, doesn't stand up, go fix it, and you can make it again. Or just tweak it again, no big deal. So then I took this profile sketch here. So what I did was I basically just kind of offset the outer edge to get this inner one. And then I originally cut it all the way through, but then I decided that I wanted a little bit more beef in there. I didn't want it to be completely hollow, just to make it a little bit stronger. So I did this X shape, and the way I did it, you can kind of see, is I basically just kind of connected this line to this line, like where this arc started and this arc ended, and then I did this one and then connected it up to the arc and just made them parallel. And then I kind of did the same thing here. I took this arc and then just kind of went straight across there, just kind of randomly, and did this one and just made sure that it was parallel there. You don't have to be parallel. I just kind of like the symmetry of it and stuff. So it gets this kind of big X or like a lowercase T, kind of, if you see in my drift, catch my drift, kind of looks like an A in there as well. So anyway, so then I extrude cut all the way through, used my through all cut there, and did that. And then it was time for the lettering. Now the lettering can be kind of finicky, and here's what you're going to want to do for that. Basically, you're going to want to have, I tried to center it vertically, but you want to have about a centimeter gap on the sides here. You don't want to be butting up against it. So what I did is I just kind of made my rectangle with my text in it, and it ended up being kind of huge. In fact, you know what? I can just do it again and just use the exact same dimensions, and it should be fine. So we'll do it again real quick. So I just put a text box in here, and I just typed Andrew J. Tessier. You don't have to use your middle initials or anything like that. I just kind of like to because I like my middle initial. That's how I use my signature and stuff too. So I'd had that. And then what I did was I just kind of used dimensions. Right, D for dimension. Go from the side here. Make sure I'm choosing that edge. Bloop. Called it a centimeter. I think you could probably go all the way down to about 0.3 centimeters if you got a really long name and you're kind of crammed for space here. But the closer you make it, the bigger it's allowed to get. Right, so if I could even, let's turn off dimensions. Let's go to 0.5, and it gets bigger. In fact, I kind of like that. I might even keep that way. Yeah. And then I did a dimension from the top. I mean, what I could do is say, all right, so this to here, this kind of distance here, it tells me right down here in the bottom, which you can't see because my video is covering that right now. But it's telling me that that distance is about 3.18 centimeters. And the length of this, it's telling me, is 1.7 centimeters. So 3.18, let's call it 3.2. 3.2 minus 1.7 of this. So that's Oscar. So I've got 3.2 centimeters of total distance. And of that, 1.7 is being taken up of this. So I'm going to try to subtract in my head. 3.2 minus 1 is 2.2. Call it 22 minus 7 is what? 16? No, 15? 15, yeah. So 2.2, yeah. Nope. I'm just going to use my calculator. There's no shame in using your calculator. There's a lot of things going on in my brain right now. I'm trying to make a video. I'm trying not to mess up. I'm trying to focus on that. I got the little guy there making noise. Who can do math at a time like that? 3.2 minus 1.7 in their brain. 1.5. 1.5. So, actually now it works out perfectly. So 0.75 down here, 0.75 down here should give us equal amounts. Although the J does kind of drop below the line there, so I might want to be careful of that. Right? So if I call this 0.75, that J is going to drop down there, which I don't totally like. So I'm going to give this a little bit more. I'm just going to do a little guess and check here. Let's go 0.6. And yeah, visually like, no, let's go 0.65. I didn't like how close that was. Yeah, overall that gives a nice little centering feature there. And then I did an extrude cut, or extrude remove rather. Right. And now here's the most important part. You're only going to engrave it 0.075 centimeters. Any more than that, and you're going to run into trouble. Because we are going to print these vertically like this, which means that all these little walls here are technically overhangs, which would technically require support. But as long as you're only going a little bit, like 0.075 like that, then you're okay. That's a small enough distance where the printer can kind of like fudge that and be okay and not require you to mess up your whole print and stuff. So you want to make sure that you don't have any engravings like that kind of pushed too far in. You can't go much more than 0.075, otherwise you're going to need supports, and we don't want to do that. And that was pretty much done, but then I looked at it and I was like, I don't really like that X. That kind of looks like crap. So I went and I filleted. So with one singular fillet, I just selected all the edges in there. You can see that, and I just kind of did a 0.2. I just played around with the number until I liked it. Could make it bigger, could make it smaller. The smaller you make it, I believe the bigger the gaps end up being. We can play around with that for a minute. 0.15. And the holes come out to be a little bit bigger than that. 0.2 looks like that. In fact, I kind of like 0.2 a little bit better. Gives me a little bit more of that gap that I had there to begin with. It kind of looks like an angel or something. Right? Like the head, the body with the robe and the wings. I don't know. Maybe. Kind of unintentional. But things you don't want to do. You want to keep this a nice flat surface. I technically could go here and fillet this and go like that and say, yep, sure, cool, done. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. That's nice and rounded. However, when I go to try to print that, basically what you're doing now is that these rounded edges kind of cause the print to kind of pull away from the build plate, which can, especially with something this tall and skinny, can cause the whole print to just fall off the build plate, which we do not want. So the only thing you really can't do is do something like that. I mean, I guess you could do it to one side and do that, but I don't know. To me, that looks kind of funky. Doesn't look very symmetrical. I mean, symmetry is kind of nice here. But I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of up to you. If you go with something kind of more weird and shaped and kind of more abstract, I guess that might work. But for how kind of clean cut and symmetrical I'm making mine, that doesn't really look like it. So just make sure that you've got a flat surface. And we are going to print these vertically like this. So just make sure that yours meets that criteria. And other than that, that should be it. Let me know if you have any questions. All right. Hope to check in with you sometime this week.